The Galactic Trade Station Horizon 7 was one of the busiest places in the known universe. Thousands of beings from hundreds of different worlds walked through its wide corridors every single day. Some came to trade goods. Some came to make deals. Some came to start new lives far from their home planets. The station was a city floating in space, and it never slept. Yuna had been living on the station for exactly 1 month. She was a human woman, 28 years old, with kind eyes and a warm smile that she gave freely to everyone she met. Back on Earth, she had studied languages and cultures. She had always been good at understanding people, even people who were very different from her. That was why the Earth government had sent her here. She was a junior ambassador, meant to help build friendships between humans and other species. Most humans on the station kept to themselves. They stayed in the human section, ate human food, and talked only to other humans. They were polite to aliens, but they kept their distance. This was because many alien species were strange and frightening to look at. Some had too many eyes. Some had teeth that looked like knives. Some were so big that they could crush a human without even trying. But Yuna was different. She was curious about everyone. She wanted to learn about every species, every culture, every way of life. She walked through all parts of the station, saying hello to anyone who would talk to her. Some aliens were surprised. Some were confused. A few were even suspicious. But most of them liked her. There was something about her that made people feel comfortable. It was on a quiet evening that Yuna first saw the Vexery. She was walking through the observation deck, a large room with windows that looked out into space. The view was beautiful. Stars stretched out forever in every direction, and a purple nebula glowed in the distance like a flower made of light. Yuna often came here when she wanted to think, but that night, she was not alone. In the corner of the room, 2 small figures sat huddled together. They were covered in gray fur, and their ears were pressed flat against their heads. Their eyes were large and amber-colored, and they reflected the starlight like mirrors. They were clearly children, though they were already the size of human teenagers. And they looked very, very sad. Yuna knew what they were. Everyone on the station knew about the Vexery. They were one of the most feared species in the galaxy. Tall, powerful, with claws that could tear through metal and teeth that could crush bone. They were warriors, hunters, predators. Most species avoided them completely. When a Vexery walked down a corridor, everyone else moved to the sides and looked away. But these were not adult Vexery. These were cubs, children, and they were sitting alone in the dark, watching the stars with eyes full of loneliness. Yuna did not hesitate. She walked over to them slowly, making sure they could see her coming. She did not want to scare them. When she was close enough, she sat down on the floor, leaving some space between them. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Yuna. What are your names?" The cubs looked at her with wide eyes. They seemed shocked that anyone was talking to them. The bigger one, a male with darker fur, pulled his sister closer to him. He made a low rumbling sound in his throat. It was not quite a growl, but it was a warning. Yuna did not move away. She just smiled gently. "It is okay," she said. "I am not going to hurt you. I just thought you might want some company." For a long moment, nobody spoke. The cubs stared at her. Yuna waited patiently. Finally, the smaller cub, a female with lighter gray fur, spoke in a quiet voice. "I am Tala," she said. "This is my brother, Ren." "Tala and Ren," Yuna repeated. "Those are beautiful names. Are you here with your family?" Ren's ears flattened even more. "Our father is Delegate Korath," he said. His voice was deeper than his sister's, but still young. "He is in meetings." "He's always in meetings." Yuna nodded. She understood now. Korath was an important Vexery leader. She had seen him from a distance at official events. He was enormous and intimidating, covered in scars from old battles. He was here to negotiate trade agreements between the Vexery and other species. It was important work, but it meant he had little time for his children. "It must be lonely," Una said, "being in a strange place with your father so busy." Tala's eyes grew wet. She looked away quickly, as if ashamed to show weakness. Ren put his arm around her protectively. "Everyone here is afraid of us," Ren said bitterly. "They look at us like we are monsters. The other children will not play with us. The adults cross to the other side of the hall when we walk by. We did not ask to come here." Una felt her heart ache for them. They were just children. They had not chosen to be born as predators. They had not chosen to be feared. They just wanted what all children wanted, to be accepted and liked and included. "Well," Una said, "I am not afraid of you. I do not think you are monsters. I think you are two kids who are far from home and missing their father. There is nothing monstrous about that." The cubs looked at her like she had said something impossible. Nobody had ever spoken to them this way before. Una pointed out the window at a cluster of bright stars. "Do you see those stars there? The ones that form a shape like a big spoon? On my planet, we call that the Big Dipper. We have stories about it. Would you like to hear one?" Tala nodded slowly. Even Ren seemed curious, though he tried to hide it. Una began to tell them an old Korean story about the stars. Her grandmother had told it to her when she was a little girl, and now she told it to these two lonely cubs on a space station far from Earth. She spoke softly and made her voice interesting, acting out different parts of the story. By the time she finished, something had changed. Tala had moved closer to her, and Ren's warning rumble had stopped completely. They were both listening with wide eyes, hungry for more. "Will you tell us another story?" Tala asked. Una smiled. "I will tell you as many stories as you want." That night, when Una finally left the observation deck, Ren had fallen asleep with his head resting against her shoulder. Tala had wrapped her small clawed hand around Una's finger and refused to let go. And Una knew, in that moment, that these two cubs had just become very important to her. The news of what happened in the plaza spread across the station like fire. By the next morning, everyone was talking about it. The human ambassador who walked through armed security. The predator cubs who calmed down at the sound of her voice. The Vexery delegate who called her family. Some people did not believe it at first. They thought it must be an exaggeration. Humans were soft and weak. Vexery were deadly and savage. The two species had nothing in common. How could a human woman have any power over a predator young? But then they saw the security footage. The station commander released a video to prove that nothing dangerous had actually happened during the drill. He wanted to calm down the rumors and stop the panic. But the video did more than that. It showed the whole galaxy exactly what Una had done. People watched a small human woman walk through a circle of armed guards without hesitation. They watched her crouch down and speak softly to two growling, snarling cubs. They watched those same cubs transform from wild beasts into gentle children the moment they reached her arms. The video was shared across a dozen star systems. Millions of beings watched it. And something shifted in the way people thought about both humans and Vexery. On the station itself, changes happened quickly. The station commander called a meeting with all the security leadership. Una was invited to attend, so was Delegate Karth. "It is clear that our protocols for handling young of certain species need to be updated," the commander said. He was a Tellurian, tall and serious, with 4 arms folded across his chest. "Ambassador Una, you demonstrated that there are better ways to handle frightened children than pointing weapons at them. Would you be willing to help us create new guidelines?" Una nodded. "I would be happy to help. Perhaps we can start with a simple rule. When children are scared, they need comfort, not containment. They need to know that someone cares about them and will keep them safe. Officer Bile was also at the meeting. His scales were dull with shame. "I apologize," he said stiffly. "We should not have treated the Vexery young the way we did. I let my fear control my actions. It will not happen again." Yuna accepted his apology gracefully. She understood that fear could make people do things they later regretted. She did not hold grudges, but Karth was less forgiving. He stood up, towering over everyone else in the room. "Your fear nearly cost my children their safety," he said to Bile. "I will be watching how your security teams behave in the future. If there are any more incidents involving Vexery young, I will take action." Bile nodded quickly. He knew what Vexery action looked like. He did not want to experience it. After the meeting, Karth asked Yuna to walk with him. They went to a quiet garden on the upper level of the station, where alien flowers bloomed in every color and strange birds sang in the trees. "I must do something," Karth said. "Something important." Yuna was confused. "What do you mean?" Karth stopped walking. He turned to face her. His amber eyes were serious and deep. "In Vexery culture, we have a tradition," he explained. "When someone outside our bloodline shows true love and protection to our young, we honor them with a title. We call them Kithmother or Kithfather. It means they are family by choice, not by birth." Yuna's eyes went wide. "Korath, I did not do anything special. I just cared for Ren and Tala because they needed someone to care for them." "That is exactly why you deserve this honor," Karth replied. "You did not do it for reward or recognition. You did it because your heart is good." He placed his massive clawed hand over his heart's, the Vexery gesture of highest respect. "From this day forward, you are Kithmother to my children. You are packed to the Vexery. Any who threaten you threaten us all." Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She had not expected this. She had never wanted anything in return for her kindness. But this was not payment. This was recognition. This was family. "I accept," she said softly. "I will honor this responsibility with everything I have." Karth nodded. Then, for the first time since she had known him, he smiled. It was a strange expression on his scarred, warrior face. But it was genuine. The ceremony happened 3 days later. It was small and private, attended only by Karth, the cubs, and a few Vexery witnesses who had traveled from their homeworld. Yuna wore a traditional Vexery robe that Karth had given her. It was too big for her small human body, but she wore it proudly. Ren and Tala stood on either side of her during the ceremony. They each placed a claw gently on her shoulders, marking her as theirs. "As family, you are one of us now," Tala whispered happily. "Forever and always." "Forever and always," Yuna agreed. The story spread far beyond the station. Diplomats and politicians and ordinary people heard about the human woman who had earned the respect of the fearsome Vexery. They heard about how she had looked at predator young and seen only children who needed love. Other species began to question their assumptions. If humans could bond with Vexery, maybe the Vexery were not as terrifying as everyone believed. Maybe fear had been blinding the galaxy to the truth for too long. One reporter asked Korath why the Vexery had accepted a human so quickly. His answer became famous across a dozen systems. "Humans are strange creatures," Korath said. "They looked at our children and saw children. They looked at our fangs and saw smiles. They looked at our claws and saw hands that needed holding. They do not fear what we are. They embrace it." He paused, his amber eyes glowing with something like wonder. "And that is why they are the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Not because they are strong or fast or deadly, but because they are not afraid to love. They are not afraid to see the good in those that everyone else has already condemned. They walk into danger not with weapons, but with open hearts. And somehow, against all logic, it works. Yuna heard about this quote later. She laughed when she read it. She was not terrifying. She was just a woman who believed that everyone deserved kindness. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the simplest thing, the most human thing, was also the most powerful. Years later, when Ren and Tala had grown into strong adult Vessery, they still called Yuna their kith mother. They still visited her every chance they got. They still remembered the night when a small human woman had walked through armed security to reach two scared cubs in a lonely plaza dot, and when they had children of their own someday, they told them stories about her. About the human who was not afraid. About the woman who saw monsters and chose to love them instead. Because sometimes the bravest thing is not fighting. Sometimes the bravest thing is simply reaching out your hand and saying, "It is okay. I am here. You are safe now." And meaning it with your whole heart. The days turned into weeks, and Yuna became a regular part of Ren and Tala's lives. Every morning, she would meet them in the garden section of the station. Every afternoon, she would take them to explore new places. Every evening, she would sit with them and tell them stories until they fell asleep. At first, some of the station's residents were concerned. They would stop and stare when they saw the human woman walking with two Vessery cubs. A few even tried to warn her. "You should be careful," said a Tellurian merchant one day. He was a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. "Those creatures may seem young, but they are still predators. One day, their instincts will take over. They will hurt you." Yuna just smiled politely. "Thank you for your concern," she said. "But I know what I am doing." She did know. She had spent her whole life studying different cultures and species. She understood that fear often came from ignorance. People feared the Vessery because they did not understand them. They saw the claws and the fangs and the size, and they assumed the worst. They never bothered to look deeper. But Yuna looked deeper. She saw that Ren was protective and loyal, always making sure his sister was safe. She saw that Tala was curious and creative, always asking questions about everything. She saw that both of them were kind and gentle. Despite what the galaxy believed about their species, she also learned their language. Vessery was a difficult tongue, full of growls and rumbles and sounds that human throats were not designed to make. But Yuna practiced every day, and soon she could speak simple sentences. The cubs were delighted. They had never met an alien who cared enough to learn their words. "You sound funny when you speak Vessery," Tala said one day, giggling. "Your growls are too soft." "That is because humans do not have the same throat as Vessery," Yuna explained. "But I am trying my best." "Your best is good," Ren said seriously. "It is more than anyone else has ever done." Yuna also introduced them to human things. She taught them Korean folk songs, simple melodies that her grandmother used to sing. The cubs could not quite match the human tones, but they tried. And the sound of 2 Vessery cubs attempting to sing human music was both funny and sweet. She also made them food. The station had replicators that could create almost anything, and Yuna programmed her grandmother's recipe for honey cakes. They were small sweet cakes made with honey and rice flour. When she gave them to the cubs, their eyes went wide. "This is the best thing I have ever eaten," Tala said, her mouth full of cake. "Better than raw meat?" Yuna asked with a smile. "Much better," Ren agreed. He had already finished 3 cakes and was reaching for a 4th. From that day on, honey cakes became their special treat. Whenever the cubs did something good, or whenever they were feeling sad, Yuna would make honey cakes. It became a tradition between them. The other residents of the station continued to watch with amazement. They saw Yuna carrying Ren on her back through the corridors, his claws carefully retracted so he would not hurt her. They saw her braiding decorative patterns into Tala's fur, the way Vessery mothers did for their daughters. They saw her defending the cubs when others said cruel things about them. One day, A group of Morvax teenagers made fun of the cubs. They called them beasts and monsters and said they did not belong on the station. Tala started to cry, and Ren's fur stood up with anger. Una stepped between them and the teenagers. Her voice was calm but firm. "These are children," she said. "They have done nothing to you. If you cannot speak kindly, then do not speak at all." The teenagers were shocked. They had not expected a human to defend Vexery. They mumbled apologies and walked away quickly. After that, word spread around the station. The human ambassador was protecting the predator cubs. She was treating them like family. Some thought she was crazy. Some thought she was brave. But everyone remembered it. Delegate Korath also noticed. He was a busy male with many responsibilities. The negotiations he was leading were important for his entire species. But he still made time to watch the security feeds from around the station. He wanted to make sure his cubs were safe. What he saw confused him at first. A human spending time with his children? Feeding them, teaching them, playing with them? It made no sense. In his experience, other species only showed kindness to Vexery when they wanted something. There was always a hidden motive. But as the weeks passed, Korath could find no hidden motive. Una asked for nothing in return. She simply seemed to care about Ren and Tala. She treated them the same way a Vexery mother would treat her own cubs. One evening, Korath found Una in the garden. His cubs were asleep on a bench nearby, curled around each other peacefully. Una was sitting on the ground, reading something on a datapad. "Ambassador Una," he said. His voice was deep and powerful, like thunder in the distance. Una looked up without fear. "Delegate Korath, your children are wonderful. I hope you do not mind that I have been spending time with them." Korath studied her for a long moment. His amber eyes were sharp and intelligent. "You treat them as your own," he said finally. "All children deserve to feel safe and loved." Una replied simply. "You do not fear what they will become?" Korath asked. "You do not fear that one day they will grow into warriors with claws and fangs? That they will become what the galaxy fears?" Una looked at the sleeping cubs. Then she looked back at Korath. "I see what they are now," she said. "Kind, curious, a little mischievous. Everything else is just possibility. I cannot fear a future that has not happened. I can only love the children who are here in front of me." Korath's ears flattened against his head. In Vexery body language, this was a sign of deep emotion. He had not expected this answer. He had not expected any of this. "You are strange, human," he said. "I have been told that before," Una admitted with a small smile. Korath looked at his sleeping children. They looked more peaceful than he had seen them in months. They looked happy. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for caring for them when I could not." Una nodded. "They are easy to care for. You have raised them well." Korath turned and walked away. But something had changed in him that night. He had begun to see humans differently. He had begun to see Una differently. And somewhere deep in his warrior's heart, he had begun to hope that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy was not as cold and cruel as he had always believed. It was supposed to be a normal day on the station. The corridors were busy with traders and travelers. The shops were open. The restaurants were serving food from 100 different worlds. Everything seemed peaceful and ordinary. Then the alarm started. A loud siren filled every corridor and every room. Red lights flashed on the walls. A mechanical voice spoke over the speakers. "Emergency lockdown. All residents please remain in your current location. Security teams are responding." It was a routine drill. The station did these drills every few months to make sure everyone knew what to do in case of a real emergency. Usually, they lasted only 20 minutes. Usually, nothing went wrong. But today, something did go wrong. Ren and Tala had been walking through the central plaza when the alarm started. They were on their way to meet Yuna in the garden. But when the lockdown began, heavy metal doors slammed shut all around them. They were trapped in the plaza, alone and scared. The plaza was a large open space in the middle of the station. It had shops and benches and a fountain in the center. But now it was empty. Everyone else had been locked in other sections. Only the two cubs remained. Tala grabbed her brother's arm. "Ren, I am scared." "What is happening?" Ren tried to look brave, but his ears were flat against his head. "It is just a drill," he said. "Yuna told us about these. We just have to wait, and then the doors will open again." But waiting was hard. The alarms were so loud. The red lights were so bright. And they were all alone in this big empty space, with no one to tell them that everything would be okay. After a few minutes, a door opened on one side of the plaza. A team of security officers walked through. There were 6 of them, wearing armor and carrying weapons. They were a mix of Kelthrani and Morvax, species that served as police and guards on the station. The leader was a Kelthrani named Bile. He had shiny blue scales and cold eyes. When he saw the 2 Victory cubs, his expression became hard and suspicious. "We have 2 unaccompanied individuals in the plaza," he said into his communicator. "Vexery Young, requesting guidance." A voice crackled back through the device. "Secure them and bring them to holding. Standard containment protocol for potentially dangerous species." Bile nodded. He walked toward the cubs with his team behind him. "You too," he said. "You need to come with us. We are taking you somewhere safe." Ren stepped in front of his sister. His fur was standing up, making him look bigger than he was. "We are not going anywhere with you," he said. "We want to wait for Yuna. She will come for us." "The human ambassador is not here," Bile said flatly. "You are coming with us." "It is not a request." He reached out to grab Tala's arm. What happened next shocked everyone. Tala opened her mouth and let out a roar. It was not a small sound. It was a full Vexery battle cry, the kind that adult warriors used to scare their enemies. The sound echoed through the empty plaza and made the lights shake. The security officers jumped back. Some of them raised their weapons. Ren joined his sister. He bared his fangs, which were already as long as human fingers. His claws extended from his hands, sharp and deadly. A low growl rumbled in his throat like an engine. "Stay away from us!" Tala screamed. Her eyes were wild with fear. Bile's scales turned a darker shade of blue. He was angry now. "Get more officers here," he said into his communicator. "The Vexery Young are hostile. We may need sedation." More security arrived. Soon there were 12 officers forming a circle around the 2 cubs. Some had stun weapons. Some had nets. All of them looked ready for a fight. One of the officers, a younger Morvax named Dory, stepped forward. "Sir, they are just children," he said to Bile. "They are scared. Maybe we should wait for someone they know." "Protocol is protocol," Bile snapped. "These are Vexery. You know what the adults can do. We cannot let them run wild on this station." "But they are not adults," Dory argued. "They have done nothing wrong. They are just frightened by the alarms and the lockdown." "Enough," Bile said. "We are following orders. Prepare the sedation darts." Another officer loaded a small gun with a dart full of sleeping medicine. He aimed it at Ren. Ren and Tala pressed their backs together. They were surrounded. There was nowhere to run. Tala was shaking so hard that her teeth chattered. Ren's growl had become constant, a never-ending rumble of fear and anger. "Please," Tala whimpered. "We just want Yuna. Please, someone get Yuna." But no one listened. The security officers saw 2 predators, not 2 children. They saw claws and fangs, not tears and trembling. They saw a threat that needed to be controlled. The officer with the dart gun took aim, and then, from somewhere in the distance, they heard footsteps. Fast footsteps. Running toward the plaza, a door on the far side of the room burst open, and Yuna walked in. She was breathing hard. Her hair was messy, and her clothes were rumpled. She had clearly been running for a long time, but her eyes were focused and determined. She looked at the scene in front of her, the armed officers surrounding two terrified cubs, and her expression changed. It was not fear. It was not confusion. It was anger. What is happening here? She demanded. Her voice was strong and clear. Why are you pointing weapons at children? Bile turned to face her. Ambassador, this does not concern you. These are dangerous creatures. We are containing them for the safety of the station. Dangerous? Yuna repeated. She looked at Ren and Tala, shaking and crying in the middle of the circle. They are 4 years old. They are scared and alone. The only danger here is what you are about to do to them. You do not understand, Bile said. Vexari are predators. Even the young ones can kill. We have protocols for situations like this. Yuna stepped closer. The officers shifted nervously. I understand perfectly, she said. I understand that you are about to hurt 2 innocent children because you are afraid of what they might do someday. I understand that you have already decided they are monsters without bothering to know them at all. She walked past Bile, toward the circle of officers. Ambassador, stop! Bile shouted. If you go near them, we cannot guarantee your safety. Yuna did not stop. She walked right into the middle of the circle. The security officers could not believe what they were seeing. A human woman, small and soft and without any weapons, was walking directly toward 2 frightened predators. Every instinct told them this was wrong. Every bit of their training said she would be torn apart. But Yuna kept walking. The cubs were still growling, still showing their fangs. Their eyes were wild with fear and confusion. They had been pushed too far. Their animal instincts had taken over. In this state, they might attack anyone who came close, or so the officers believed. Yuna stopped a few steps away from the cubs. She crouched down slowly, making herself smaller and less threatening. Her movements were calm and gentle. She showed no fear at all. Ren, she said softly in Vexari. Tala, it is me. I am here now. Ren's growl stuttered. His ears twitched forward, just slightly. I know you are scared, Yuna continued. Her voice was like warm honey, sweet and soothing. The loud sounds and the strange people and all these weapons. It is too much. I understand. But you are safe now. I promise you are safe. Tala made a small sound. It was not a growl or a roar. It was a questioning chirp, the kind of sound a young Vexari makes when they are confused but hopeful. Yuna held out her hand. Come to me, she said. I am right here. Everything is going to be okay. The entire plaza was silent. The security officers had stopped moving. They barely breathed. They watched and waited to see what would happen. Tala moved first. She leaped across the distance between them. Her body slammed into Yuna with enough force to knock over a normal person. But Yuna had prepared herself. She caught the cub in her arms and held on tight, even as Tala's claws dug into her shoulders. I was so scared, Tala sobbed. Her whole body was shaking. I thought they were going to hurt us. I thought you were not coming. I will always come for you, Yuna whispered. Always, no matter what. Ren followed his sister. He pressed against Yuna's other side, burying his face in her neck. His growl finally stopped. In its place came a soft whimpering sound, the cry of a child who had been terrified and was now finally safe. Yuna sat down on the cold floor of the plaza. She held both cubs in her arms and stroked their fur gently. She hummed a soft tune, one of the Korean songs she had taught them. Slowly, Their shaking began to stop. Their breathing became calmer. Their claws retracted. The security officers stared. Officer Dury, the young Morvax who had argued against sedation, was the first to lower his weapon. "By the stars," he said quietly. "She just walked right in there. She was not afraid at all." Bile's scales had gone pale. He did not know what to say. He had been so certain that the cubs were dangerous. He had been so sure that they would attack anyone who approached. But here was this human woman, sitting on the ground with two apex predators curled around her like baby animals. How did she do that? Another officer whispered. "BYEOL had no answer. YUN. I looked up at them. Her eyes were calm, but there was steel beneath the calm. "These children were not a threat," she said. "They were scared. When children are scared, they need comfort, not containment. They need someone to tell them that everything will be okay." "We were following protocol," Bile said weakly. "Your protocol almost hurt two innocent cubs," Una replied. "Your protocol almost made you shoot sleeping medicine at children who just wanted to be left alone until someone they trusted could come for them." She shook her head. "That is not a good protocol." Dury nodded slowly. "She's right," he said to Bile. "Look at them now. They are completely calm. They were only aggressive because we threatened them." Bile opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. What could he say? The evidence was right in front of him. The terrifying predator cubs were now purring quietly, their eyes closed, completely at peace in the arms of a human woman. A new voice spoke from across the plaza. "What is the meaning of this?" Everyone turned. Delegate Korath had arrived. He was enormous, even for a Vexary. His gray fur was marked with scars from countless battles. His amber eyes burned with a dangerous light. He moved through the security officers like they were not even there, and they were smart enough to get out of his way. When he saw his children wrapped around Una, he stopped. For a moment, his expression was unreadable. "They tried to take us," Tala said, her voice muffled against Una's shoulder. "They pointed weapons at us. But Una came. Una saved us." Korath looked at the security officers. His lips pulled back to show his fangs. Every officer took a step backward. Even Bile, who had seemed so confident before, looked like he wanted to run. "You pointed weapons at my cubs," Korath said. His voice was quiet, but it was the quiet before a storm. "We were following protocol," Bile said again. It sounded even weaker this time. "Protocol," Korath repeated. The words dripped with contempt. "Your protocol says to threaten children. Your protocol says to aim weapons at those who have done no wrong. Your protocol is broken." He turned away from the officers, dismissing them completely. He crouched down next to Una and his cubs. "Are they hurt?" he asked. His voice was different now, softer and full of concern. Una shook her head. "Just scared. But they are calming down now." Ren lifted his head. "Father, they were going to shoot us with medicine to make us sleep. They called us dangerous. They called us creatures." Korath's ears flattened. That dangerous light returned to his eyes. "Did they? But Una came," Tala added quickly. "She walked right past all of them. She was not scared at all. She came to save us." Korath looked at Una, really looked at her. He saw the scratches on her shoulders where the cub's claws had dug in. He saw the tears on her clothing. He saw the way she held his children, gentle but protective, like a mother holding her own young. "You risked your life," he said. "No," Una replied. "I just walked across a room to reach two children who needed me. They could have hurt you. In their fear, they could have attacked you without meaning to." Una smiled softly. "But they did not. Because they know me. Because they trust me. Fear makes us dangerous only when we have no one to calm us down. Ren and Tala had me. They have always had me." Korath was silent for a long moment. Something was changing in his eyes. Something deep and important. "Father," Ren said quietly, "Yuna is family. Is she not?" Korath looked at his son. Then he looked at Yuna. Then he nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "She is."